I didn't know I was talking until about 2 hours ago, so I had Jason, the writer of Selenium, and then also Kosuke, the writer of Jenkins, over at my office a couple months ago. And they said that they would actually give a talk only if I talked also about how we use it. So me and I'm going to get a shout out to John Chouping put together some slides about what we do and actually the way that we build our application, how we release it, what we do as far as our dev, QA, stage, and production environment. So John Chouping actually helped me put these together, or actually did the talk with me, so I'm going solo. Some of this information has actually changed, and after going through the slides, I realized some of it was kind of boring. So if you actually have any questions as we go along, feel free to scream them out. But it's mostly about Jenkins and actually how we do our deploy. We use Git, we're a Python shop. But I'll just go through the slides, and then at the very end, maybe I'll ramble on a little bit more. Or, yeah, I guess that's basically it. So, who am I? Why do you care about what I have to say? My name's Theo. I work at a company called Eventbrite. I'm a systems engineer there. One of the things that I'm talking about is Jenkins and Selenium. This is actually part of our testing. Am I a developer? No. So I don't necessarily use this in my QA? No. But one of the people that I am is when our stuff breaks at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm one of the people who gets woken up, and at the office when stuff doesn't work, they come to me to figure out exactly what went wrong. So I build tools for them to make things work better. This is a quick demonstration, or not really a demonstration per se, but this is what we do. Yeah, so that's me. So who is Eventbrite? We're a company who sells tickets. You probably know about who we are because if you came to this event, you used Eventbrite. We're a ticket place. We sell lots of tickets, 59 million. I actually just updated that from the 2 months ago when I did this presentation. It was 52 million. So we've done a few sales since then. 190 employees, 50 of them are engineers. So if you can think 50 engineers, that's 50 people to complain to me or cause problems on our site. So I'll tell you how we actually tried to keep that to a minimum. International customers, we actually are in 7 different languages. That's actually more than 7 different countries. Yeah, languages can be a bitch sometimes. So our cycle, we do weekly releases. Our releases are on Wednesday. So if you actually come to our site on Wednesday, there's some sort of a problem, that's usually because of me, or the stuff actually hasn't gone out properly. But that hasn't happened to any of you, right? So I guess I'm doing my job right. We do daily bug fixes because of the fact that even though we try to test as much in QA as possible, there's no way to actually replicate real users. Because real users do stupid things, like click buttons constantly, and I haven't really figured out how to automate that. So daily bug fixes. So I don't think I actually talk about this, but maybe a quick little backup. We're a Python shop, so we use Fabric to do our deployments. We're using Jenkins to wrap it, and GitHub. So we're a Git Python thing. Yeah, the flow. I like this, I made it myself. That's a developer, he writes in Python. He checks into Git, we use GitHub. We actually use a few different Git repositories. I personally don't use GitHub, but we have about 9 different repos there. All of those have different branches based on what exactly we're doing. Some people have their own personal branch, which usually I work out of for our tools that are completely separate from the company. But we do basically different products as far as the site goes. The main one, which I think I have in there, but let's just go through here. So basically Git. The developer actually has this idea. He's got the code, he's got the code base. It's been around for about 6 years. You can think in 6 years, stuff might be a problem, but usually he actually codes it pretty well. Checks it into Git, Jenkins automatically pulls that down. And then it starts running some tests, which is the unit test up here. And then after it passes the unit test, it goes over to Selenium. Selenium runs the test actually as if it's a real user, which can't actually completely replicate. And then it actually goes over to Sauce Labs, which does more tests. And then it goes back to Jenkins. And then actually we have a real development process. So one of the things that we've done that I thought pretty badass was we actually have a deployment scheduler, deployment tools to work on every single environment. So I don't know if you've ever worked at a place where you say, oh, for dev, what I do is I do a git pull. And then, oh, and then when I go to QA, they tar it up. And then when I go to stage, what we do is so on and so forth. Ours is actually Fabric across the board. So there's a slight difference when it actually goes to development, depending upon which development environment they're in. But I can go more into that if anyone's interested. We have our local dev development, which actually is put in our GitHub repository that's using a product that I can't remember. Yeah, and then we basically roll out. And then eventually it goes out to the end user, which is production. This cycle, as we always say, rinse and repeat. We do it on a weekly basis and sometimes on a daily basis based on bugs. You asked to show the flow, and there it is. Builds, virtual environment. This actually really works really well for us because of the fact that we're never up to date with everything. As I like to wish that I was. Virtual environments are a great build. In Python has the virtual env, which totally kicks ass. The nice thing is you can actually push this out to every different server, and then if you want to roll it back, it's just a matter of a symlink. We try to keep everything in-house so that nothing actually can be break from the internet. And then of course there's a naming convention. So, and stick with your naming convention because it makes sense. This one right here is actually this is our core release. So it would actually, the name Eventbrite, 7050, which is actually the Jenkins number that's assigned to it. So this could actually increment based on how many problems QA is actually having. It's off the master branch, and then of course the SHA. This we can actually track down to figure out exactly what's anywhere and who's doing what. Questions? You guys can yell stuff out. I honestly don't mind. Is anyone interested in this stuff? Maybe? Slightly? Okay, cool.
How would you get the SHA until you've actually committed it, though? I mean, you can't give the name of the branch until after that's been committed, so.
We don't assign this. This is actually done by Jenkins. So what we do is we can't set up the variables.
That's not a get SHA.
What? No, it is a get SHA.
Okay.
So what happens is, for instance, if I check in my code and it's the very last part, and the master gets the SHA, and that's what we pass over to Jenkins to pull all this information. So Jenkins will increment the number, and then it'll get the SHA, and then you can actually make it go back and forth. Got it? Sweet. Technology to play. So we've got a lot of stuff. In fact, this is not even half of it. So Python's Go's actually to get a lot of the stuff out of there. We use the Django, which can be fun if you like ORMs. MySQL, RabbitMQ, Hadoop, Nginx, Mongo. There's CSS. There's PHP. There's Java. Now there's JavaScript. What else? We're using Redis now. We've got some other big stuff that are coming in. What? Scala? Scala? No, we're not. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about getting Eric here to start talking about that, but no, just like the SQL processes. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff and a lot of moving parts. And Solar was actually asking a question earlier about development and getting actually all those tools out there. And I think that was your question. But one of the ways that we do is we actually just turn them off. So the best thing to do is actually put yourself in a situation. What happens if Mongo's not there? Well, you want your stuff to fail gracefully. So what we do is actually dev null all those requests. So when they actually pull down the code, if it can't find Mongo, then it actually puts the standard, whatever the generic thing is. And that's another way you can also test your code and make sure that it works without certain things. And there's basically two things you really need. You need your platform, so in our case it would be Python, and then MySQL in our case. But whatever actually your data is actually there, then everything else is kind of like icing on the top. So for instance, if you can't search, your site shouldn't go down because people may want to search, but they want the core stuff. So what we do is basically just make that all breakable. So.
How's it breakable?
Well, so if it just doesn't work, that's another thing. We're also our whole system's on Amazon. So at any given time, our machines could break and die. So we have to make things that are redundant, and also at any time that network traffic. I remember a couple of months ago, some new engineer basically rerouted all of our IP. So they were doing something crazy. So we couldn't find any of our servers, and latency was horrible. Yeah, good old Amazon. But edit that, please. So yeah, so basically, like there's certain parts of the code that at any time could actually disappear. The main important thing would be your data, and then also the application that runs on it. But everything else, search, recommender, email, all that can actually go away at any given time. So you just need to make that built redundant.
What do you think of this Netflix chaos monkey stuff?
I think it's one of the coolest things. I actually wish I would have built it, and if anyone ever offers me a job to write stuff to kill machines, I'm totally going to take it. I think the Chaos Monkey is totally rad, and they've actually just recently open sourced it. They're not calling it the Chaos Monkey, though. I downloaded it, but I haven't had a chance to play with it. It's written in Python, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, Chaos Monkey.
How do you reconcile like doing a service-oriented architecture where you have so many moving parts and like things that need to communicate with each other, and then having your apps and not requiring there to be other servers to talk to and answer your query about whatever?
Well, so the question was, basically, how do you make your application be able to work without being able to talk to everything at the exact same time? Is that kind of to sum it up?
Sure.
Yeah, so it's basically coming up, well, depending on what the needs are. Like, for instance, search, recommender, email. These are things that if somebody comes to our site and wants to buy a ticket, they don't actually need to get an order confirmation right away. If they come to our site to buy a ticket, they don't need to know which friends are actually going to that event right away. Or they don't need to search for events that are exactly the same in that general area right away. What they want to do is buy a ticket. So what you want to do, or what we want to do, and I don't know how you guys like to code, is to make sure that you're basically your bread and butter, the most important part of your site is always available. Now the other things, like for instance, when you come to our page, there's a request for another service, and that's another product that's on our site. If it goes and does that request and is not able to connect to it, it doesn't flip out and just die. And that's actually one of the things that it used to happen. We try to actually look to see which of your friends are going somewhere, and I don't know if anyone's ever worked with Facebook. Sometimes this stuff doesn't respond. So, kind of funny, I thought. But yeah, so like that would be a perfect example. So if it goes and tries to connect to Facebook and says, hey, what friends are actually using this event? And it can't respond, it'll actually respond and say, do something else, more of a generic or stock sort of an update. For instance, one of the things that we do is if you go to the site and there's a problem with a certain area that's actually recommended, we have actually default recommended events. So that if it can't find the ones that are actually in your area, it'll pull up a generic set, things that we've actually placed. And then in which case your experience is exactly the same. You go, oh, that actually does look cool, but it doesn't exactly fit me this time. Really, we're running around in the background going, oh no, everything's broken. Does that answer your question? Let's see. Yeah, so this is basically what we were talking about earlier as far as the flow goes. Building, deploying our main sites, general flow. Basically, we have our core, goes to test. We do smoke test, which is basically just hitting the code without using Selenium. QA deployment, and then basically our promotion. We use Fabric. Fabric's pretty cool. And then symlinking. Symlinking is, we basically we take the package, and this is actually really important, and something that we didn't do for a long time, and then we finally fixed it. It was really just a matter of time, but the very first time, which is actually QA, when we say this is something that we really want to present, and we want to push out to production, we actually do a build, and that one build will actually go from staging to from QA to staging to production. And there's absolutely no change, no human interaction between the two. The promotion is actually what we give it to and what we push out onto the servers. What does this do for us? If there's any human interaction between the QA and the production, stuff could break. So this way we know whatever was on QA, whatever's on staging, is exactly what's going out to production, and there's no differences. And that's really saved us a lot of time. Fingerprinting, you already saw that with the SHA, up-down string job, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of boring. Let's skip that. Smoke tests, yes, we also use Sauce Labs. Sauce Labs basically is Selenium with video. It's pretty cool. Pretty easy to set up. That's about it.
Wait, what do you mean? Yeah.
So Sauce Labs is, so it's written by Jason. I'm trying to think of his last name. He gave a talk actually at the office about building a robot using Python and using some of the same ideology that Selenium was built out of. And it plays Angry Birds, so it's pretty cool.
Selenium actually became Sauce Labs, and they're productizing Selenium.
Yeah, so what they do is basically they do video. So Selenium's an open source project that became a product called Sauce Labs, which you can use their service to run your Selenium test on, and it'll come over to your site and actually test everything, and you can actually get videos of the test as they're actually happening. So wherever the problem is, so people would actually say, I clicked here, then an error, any sort of exception, it'll actually capture that via video and send you an email that says, hey, here's your problem, or you have to find it in the video.
They'll also do cool stuff like run it on like 8 browsers in parallel and in multiple languages. You can set up and buy minutes from them so that you can get a lot more tests run in a short time.
That's fine. I just want to know what with video meant.
Oh.
Is that what it said? With video? Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I put these together like 6 months, or 4, 3, 2, I don't know, 2 months ago. Yeah, the talk was fun. I missed it. Let's see. Public embarrassment. That actually works really well for our coders. So basically, anytime there's any sort of a problem with their code, and they actually get it all the way out to the QA environment. An email goes out to the entire team and says, hey, this is broken. And the person actually goes, wow, I wasted all your time, and I apologize for this. So it works pretty well. I don't do what you want. Yeah, so the promotion process, we basically write in dev, we promote to QA, promote to staging, and then promotion to prod, which is basically our release. How our builds get promoted. So you can't actually get anything out in production if we have any sort of problems with the unit test. Anytime the smoke test fails, it just won't actually work. There's no way you could even release it to QA, which is pretty nifty. So we put a lot of blocks on it, so you can't actually cut corners. One of the things that's really important for us is sleeping. I hate getting paged at 4 o'clock in the morning. And by doing this kind of stuff, it actually really allows me to sleep. And I like that. So,
what do you guys do in your staging environment?
Our staging environment is built just the same size as production. It's really more of a load test. One of the problems with our QA environment is to split it off into, we started doing the agile groups, which is basically like 20 different groups of engineers doing something independently and then coming back in. QA is testing each of those different groups individually, but then when you put them all together, that's a lot of times when things can break. So what we do there is load testing. We basically use JMeter, slam the hell out of it, and wait for things to fail over.
So, and then how do you populate your database?
I don't want to answer that.
Okay.
No, actually. We do a copy of production. We take all the important information out of it, and we copy that over to our...
And then you pull log files to do, or you just...
No, we actually just use our Selenium tests. So there's a different group, and this would actually be answered better by the QA team. But we have a suite of tests that's, I don't know, something like 500 different tests that we hit. So it like creates users, it creates a ticket, deletes a ticket, creates a user, invites a user, does anything and everything you can imagine. It's using JMeter, that's one of them, and then Nose. So they basically just slam the hell out of it and try to get as much. So we've got something like, at any given time, we could have about 15 servers that it will spin up, which is one of the nice things about Amazon. You can spin up 15 servers, slam the hell out of a test, and then turn them all off. So that's actually what our QA does. Yeah, gold star. So basically, we don't let anything go by if any of this stuff doesn't actually work.
Wait, does Gold Star have any other meeting that went through all those first three things?
No, that's actually it. I went through all of them and passed every single one of those
Where did you
tests.
stick the Gold Star?
The gold star, actually, it's given by Jenkins, which is pretty nifty. The way Jenkins is set up, you set up different tests for it to do, and whether or not they pass, it can actually get promoted. So it actually will stay in the bottom state. So it actually can't get over to staging until that part happens. And that's all done, we actually manage it. So I don't know if you guys care about permissions and stuff, but like I said before, this is actually all exactly the same. So a developer can actually take his code and push that out to his environment because he has rights to do that. And everyone can actually use the GUI interface, which is what Jenkins does. Jenkins builds us a tar file that's everything that goes out to our production, or would be to our production. But we actually only give access to the QA team to go out to staging, and then that's it. And then after that, it goes into the operations team, and then we push it out to production. Gold star. Yeah, so we've got a whole bunch of different, I think there's actually 10 different products now. So we have core data analytics, EB analytics, Sentry, anything and everything that we can, we basically put into GitHub, because version control rocks. Yeah. Losing you guys? You guys having fun? Walking on resource, controlled by Jenkins. So basically, as far as the tests go, they're queued up. So Jenkins works really well. Is anyone here actually using Jenkins? You guys like it? It's pretty sweet. Yeah. Yeah. So it works out pretty well. We have a 3-node cluster. We might actually have to toss a couple more in soon, just because of the fact that everyone wants to test constantly. Which I don't understand why they don't do it locally before they check it in, but whatever. It's all good. They're having a good time with it. Yeah, so we have revisioning and build logic with our code. So let's talk about some of the issues. So pulling multiple branches. So one of the things that we have right now in that we basically release off of our master branch. So with Jenkins, one of the big problems is you actually have to configure it for each of the branches that you want to use. So we use master. So anyone that actually wants to do a test needs to actually check or merge all their changes into the master. And that can be kind of a bitch. Yeah, well, exactly. So that's the whole thing, is they also have to manage what they're doing. It's not as easy as just, hey, you know, git commit, I'm done, and walk away. People sometimes do that. Then they get an email that goes out to the entire engineering staff. Public humiliation totally works. Branch flip-flopping, unit test failure. Yeah, archiving artifacts takes forever. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. My name is Theo.